It's kind of crazy to think that just over a decade ago, the world's biggest spectacle was, well, on the verge of collapse. Seriously, the Olympic Games were bleeding money, host cities were dropping out left and right, and the whole model was just broken. It was obvious that something had to change, and fast.
And that's the powerful, stark warning the International Olympic Committee gave itself: change or be changed. Let me tell you, that wasn't just some catchy slogan for a PR campaign. Nope, it was a real admission that the Olympic movement had to transform from the inside out before the rest of the world basically made it irrelevant.
So, how did it get so bad? I mean, what went so wrong? To really get why the solution was so important, we first have to understand the problem. And there were some serious problems threatening the very future of the Games.
It was a total vicious cycle. Hosting the games had become ridiculously expensive. Cities were building these massive, specialized stadiums that, after just 2 weeks of glory, would just sit there, empty, becoming these giant white elephants. The public, of course, saw billions being spent with nothing to show for it long term, and they started to push back, hard. Pretty soon, cities that might have hosted were just withdrawing their bids. The Olympics were becoming a party that nobody wanted to throw.
So, facing this existential threat, the IOC had to come up with a whole new playbook. It was called Olympic Agenda 2020, and it was basically a strategic roadmap designed to completely reshape the future of the Games. And listen, this was no simple press release. It came out of a year-long, really soul-searching conversation with absolutely everyone involved. We're talking athletes, sponsors, cities, the whole shebang. And in December 2014, the IOC unanimously adopted this new vision, fundamentally rethinking everything, from how a city even bids for the Games to the legacy it leaves behind. And the ambition here was just huge. We're not talking about one or two little tweaks. Agenda 2020 was a super detailed plan with 40, that's 40, separate but all interconnected recommendations for reform. Okay, so a 40-point plan is a lot to wrap your head around, right? So to make it manageable and give it a really clear direction, the IOC built the entire strategy on 3 core principles. Think of them like the pillars holding up the whole new structure. And here they are, super simple: sustainability, credibility, and youth. Sustainability was all about making the Games work financially, socially, and for the environment. Credibility meant cleaning things up, good governance, and really protecting clean athletes. And youth, well, that was all about getting the next generation of fans and athletes excited and involved. So, a great philosophy is one thing, but the big question is, did it actually work? This is where we get to see how all these reforms, which later got packaged up as the new norm, started to make a real tangible impact in the real world. And you want proof? Just look at the numbers. The average cost for a city to simply bid for the 2022 Winter Games was a mind-blowing $35 million. Now, after the reforms, for the 2026 bid, that cost plummeted to less than $5 million. That is an insane 85% reduction, an immediate massive success that suddenly made hosting a real possibility for way more cities, not just the super rich ones. So how did they do it? Well, they completely flipped the model. The old way was this rigid, expensive contest where cities had to bend over backward and change their own long-term plans to fit the Olympics. The new norm is a partnership. It's a conversation where the IOC actually helps the city figure out how the Olympics can fit their goals. And we can see this happening right now with Paris 2024. This is about so much more than just saving money. It's a whole new model for sustainability. They're planning to use 95% existing or temporary venues. Paris is basically proving that you can have a spectacular Games that also aligns with the city's own green plans, leaving a positive legacy, not a bunch of concrete. And then there's Los Angeles in 2028, and they're taking it even further with this radical reuse idea. They're going to need, get this, 0 new permanent venues. Just think about that for a second. An entire Olympic Games with no new construction debt. By just using the incredible infrastructure LA already has, they're aiming to completely get rid of the whole white elephant problem. And the reforms went way beyond just costs and buildings. Agenda 2020 really pushed for gender equality, and at Tokyo 2020, we saw female athlete participation hit almost 49%, the most balanced Games ever. It also poured a ton more money into protecting clean athletes and created the Olympic Channel so you can keep up with your favorite sports all year long, not just for 2 weeks every couple of years. But here's the thing about reform. You're never really done, are you? The world just doesn't stand still. The success of Agenda 2020 was a huge milestone, for sure, but it wasn't the finish line. The IOC knew this whole process had to keep evolving to meet whatever challenges came next.
And then, of course, the global pandemic hit and basically put everything on fast forward, from how we use technology to economic uncertainty. So, in response, the IOC had to adapt its strategy once again, and in 2021, they introduced the next phase of their roadmap.
This new plan is called Olympic Agenda 2020 plus 5. Pretty straightforward. It's a new set of 15 recommendations, and it's all designed to guide the Olympic movement through all the challenges and opportunities of this post-pandemic world we're all living in. So this new agenda is really charting the course for what's next, and it's focusing on 5 key areas. It doubles down on sustainability and credibility, but it also adds a new sense of urgency to things like digitalization, making sure they're financially resilient, and this one is so important, fostering solidarity in what feels like an increasingly polarized world. So all this brings us to the final, really critical question. The Olympic movement proved it could change when it absolutely had to. The reforms have been a success. But with the pace of global change just getting faster and faster, the challenge is still there. Can the games continue to evolve and, stay relevant for the next generation? That's the real test.